We are speaking about the modification of Regulation 924 on cross-border payment, and we shall deal with all aspects related to conversion. But another point of history, before this regulation, it was Regulation 2560, which has created the equality of charges for payment in euro. It was 15 days before the introduction of coins and notes. Why this has been done? Because credit transfer at that time between France and Belgium, it was between 15 and 20 euro for a credit transfer of 100 euro, which is the current situation for the time being in Romania, Bulgaria, and that kind of country. And at that time, everybody knew that it was very expensive for banks to do that kind of cross-border transaction. Image we used to use at that time, it was that national payment system was motorways, but to go through the border, it was a trail in the mountain. And so, of course, it was much more expensive for banks. But what has been the result of this regulation? The creation of SEPA. SEPA has been provoked by this regulation. So, of course, we have to take account of what is the situation we have today, but we have also to take account of the situation what we want to have in the future. And if the legislation can be a push, can be an help to that, why not? And it brings me to the first point of this regulation, which is the equality of charge for cross-border payment. And the fact that, well, we need to describe how the thing will happen. Polish guy working here in Belgium want to send money in his own country. Okay, you say that the fees will be the same in Poland and as regards the national currency. But he will send the money. If he sends the money to the euro account, yes, no problem. But if it's to be transferred on an account in national currency, what will happen? The same in the other direction. You want to do a payment to send euro. You are in Poland, you want to send euro in Belgium. There is at one moment a conversion, and the conversion is not free. And it's why we consider that it's necessary to extend the scope of the regulation not only to euro transaction, but also to all currency, to avoid this conversion fee. And there is many amendments of the Parliament to extend this principle to transactions which are not in euro. And we say it will be very expensive. Sorry, if you look at the figures of the EU report, you have 360,000 million inhabitants in the 20 countries which have the euro, 90 plus Sweden due to the equal charges, and 8 countries, 150 million inhabitants. Globally, there is 450 credit transfer in the EU today. Among those, with currency conversion, among those you have only 30 million which are not related to, which are not covered by this regulation. And so we consider that 30 million for 450 million, I should not say it's peanuts, but it's not very far. And so with all the development of new technology, with all the new techniques that we see arriving on the market even for cross-border payment, which are competitor to banks, a lot of fintech are investing in this sector. I am fully convinced that if we put this obligation in the legislation, everybody will find cheap solution. We'll move from the expensive systems that we have today. And another point on this cross-border regulation, and I think there is a mistake which has been done by Council and Parliament, and I fully support the initial proposal of the Commission, is about transparency. Because there was the Article 3A general rules on transparency, which was initially written to cover at the same time cross-border payment and DCC. In the new version of the Council and the new version of the Parliament, it's cover only DCC. So what will happen if the text remains as it is, I have explained at the beginning, there is at any time one conversion on one side, perhaps on the sending side, perhaps on the receiving side. If the banks cannot take fees for the cross-border payment that they take now, what they will do? They will recuperate it on the conversion fee. And so the effect of this regulation will be nothing. Will be nothing. Because if the fee they cannot take as a transaction fee, they can take it as a conversion fee, we shall see a transfer of fee, not transfer of money. That's, I think, a mistake in the current text of the Council and the Parliament. The fact that the former Article 3A is now limited to DCC. That's for first part of this regulation, cross-border payment. I move now to DCC. Yes, we have seen, with no time to go into details of the report we have published. Well, that's important. And all the example as BEUC, which is a collective of 40 national consumer associations. We have collected a lot of data about practice of DCC, and we have shown that in many, many cases, the use of DCC is more expensive for consumer. And so we have begun to work on that and to find what was the best solution. Of course, there is this article, it was 49, this has become 559 in the PSD2 about obligation of transparency, but this article is so vague and implemented in such a way that it's not really a possibility to give a choice to the consumer. And of course, one idea is to improve this article. But there are also other possibility, other option. And we begin by the end. We have totally supported the idea of the Commission of full transparency. Full transparency, what does that mean? Because I am not always, as an ordinary consumer, a mathematician. What is interesting for the consumer when he has to pay? Because normal behavior of consumer. Do you want to pay in local currency or in your currency? More than 90% of the consumer answer in my currency. Because I know exactly what will be the price, and it's how they use DCC. But of course it's a service for them, but a very expensive service. And so we say that it's necessary to be more transparent about that. And the idea that I'm in a shop, I introduce my card for a payment with an amount. It's sent to the issuer, to the scheme, to the request of authorization. In that case, the authorization center of my bank see that it's a transaction in a foreign currency, and can authorize the payment by saying, but sending the information on the price, of the cost of this transaction. And this question of cost of the transaction is very important because from one bank to the other, you have huge fee from one country to the other. I have some figures here which are amazing. One of the less expensive banks in Belgium, a big one. When you take 100 euro in an ATM, what in a foreign currency, how do you estimate the cost in percentage of this payment? What do you think? It will be 2%, 10%, 20%? If it's for 100 euro, it's an example I took from a brochure of banks. From 100 euro in Sofia or Warsaw, you will pay 6 euro. If you use your debit card, it will be 6.39 euro for with cash withdrawal of 100 euro, and 7.65 if you use your credit card. So it's 7% and a half. That's huge. On the contrary, when you pay in shops, due to interchange fee, do you think what is the less expensive when you pay in shops? Credit card or debit card, to your opinion? No answer, no problem. Credit card is less expensive. Just to show that it's for 100 euro, it's 251 with debit card and 160 with credit card. Just to show that there are fees, important fees, which are taken by the banks. It's why it's completely possible to imagine that DCC can be less expensive. But you have to demonstrate it. And to demonstrate it, it's why we have supported the position of the Commission. I receive the information for this payment that I am doing. The cost for me will be this amount. The retailer, through this DCC provider, propose me another price. I see the two prices. I cancel the transaction through my without DCC, and I choose the proposal made by the DCC provider. That's for me transparency at the digital age. We don't need all this paper document and that kind of thing, and ask to the consumer to take the document of the bank, to take his smartphone and do the calculation. It's in the digital society possible to do that kind of thing. Unfortunately, Parliament and Council have said no because, I don't know because.
Let's find a word.
No, but I think this, there is possibility, but we need for that to have full transparency. And full transparency need to create this possibility that the kind of information to be provided to the consumer. That's the important point. In case we don't succeed to have that, an alternative proposal we have done, which is now also in an amendment of the Parliament, is the possibility for the consumer to insert in the card, in the chip of the card, the possibility not to accept payment in national currency when you are in his home currency when the transaction is initially in local currency, close to your idea. We don't want at all that to be decided by the banks, because if you leave the bank do it, you know immediately the result. Our idea is that it's possible for the consumer, for example, using an ATM, to choose to accept or not to accept DCC. And we have also in mind the fact that when the consumer is outside the EU, where you can have in the US or in Asia some kind of very expensive DCC, the possibility, it gives us all the EU rules on transparency and that kind of thing does not apply, of course, the possibility to be sure that it will not be victim of some kind of DCC when he is outside of the EU. It's one proposal that we have made to the Parliament and which is now in the list of the 115 amendments which will be in discussion in the Econ Committee.